Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Trackmania. We are back, it is Tuesday, it is 8 PM once again, and as all things are as same as last week, we're both rocking the Mickey Mouse t-shirts, the official, uniform, so to speak, of Let's Talk Trackmania, but we are back once again, it is Tuesday, it is Talking Trackmania time. I am your host, TMScotsman. I am joined by the lovely Turbo. Hope you're doing well. I heard you just played Cup of the Day, and What was it? You got a silver trophy, was it?
Yeah, I got 10th. I played together with Marius, and yeah, it was such a crazy map. Maybe some of you guys have played it as well, but it was ice, and I got 10th, and I was like, dude, why is the person 10 seconds ahead of me? Then I was embracing my 5-head, and I got an arbitrary boost. And yeah, eventually I transferred my knowledge to Marius, and he won Cup of the Day because I was on TeamSpeak with them very spontaneously. That's cool. That was team effort. And yeah, I'm doing good. Was a busy weekend again with Elite Cup, with other competitions. And how are you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, man. It sounds like you had quite the team effort there, or I think, we can give all the credit to you now that you powered Marius to the victory anyway. But yeah, I've been doing well. I mean, my weekend was quite good, quite happy with it. I'm playing a little bit more Trackmania, which is always nice. And yeah, I mean, I'm joined by my two most favourite people. I'm joined by Turbo in the foreground and Erwin in the back, of course. Just a reminder to everyone, since we are back with episode number 21, we're really getting up there in the numbers. Then with episode 21, of course, once again brought to you by ESAC. And I'll just give everyone a reminder, of course, the competitive open map pool is officially open for maps to be submitted. And also any of you out there who are interested in any map testing capacities or are interested in their maps being featured in, of course, the upcoming competitive open map pool project, which will have its first map pack being released over 3 categories on January the 1st, 2021. The deadline for the maps is the 17th of December. That's, again, these podcasts are, of course, brought to you by the man behind the screen, Erwin, of course, of ESAC, joining us from the back lines. But will we get into today's content for our episode today? Of course, what we were going to talk about, I suppose it almost feels like a little bit of a gap's been left in our lives, I would say, Turbo. I think this will be the first week where we haven't actually had anything to talk about regarding Trackmania Grand League since, May, maybe? Something like that. It feels like we've been talking about this one thing for ages, but now I think it's only fair, what I've kind of put out, I think this is fair to be a competitive recap of what's been happening outside of Trackmania Grand League, what people may have been missing, and what people may have to look forward to. But one thing I will say that people might not have been noticing, and I'm noticing it's coming around into awards season now, the end of the year. I'd implore anyone who is watching to take note of what this man to the left or right of me is doing, casting week in, week out, weekend after weekend, cup after cup, and if that doesn't deserve a mention for caster of the year, then I don't know what does. So get on to Mr. Holdall, get on to the TM News guys, whoever the fuck's doing awards, I don't care. But today's topics, as we said, competitive recap. What's kind of first coming to your minds when we're talking about tournaments that have been happening over the past few months besides Trackmania Grand League?
So of course Elite Cup, and then we also had the Game Ward Solo Edition. Yeah, this one we had, and Elite Cup 4 was only this this weekend, and also like other competitions, let's say CPS team competition, TTCS, and stuff like that. I mean, just including Trackmania, the new Trackmania game here, because we had so many competitions actually. Just after Trackmania Grand League coming up now, it's crazy that so many competitions are coming out of nowhere. It's like a weekly thing now that we have huge competitions, and I want to stress actually the variety of that. So we have very different amount of competitions, and first of all, thanks for the shout out there. Of course, I try to cast a lot, and that's my passion. But hey, you should have been a contestant for Cast of the Year as well, shouldn't you?
Oh, no, I mean, in the wake of the efforts by the likes of you and Necra this year, I think there's only 2 candidates in my head.
Yeah, but Geek is a very, very good caster as well, so he definitely deserves to be mentioned as well. Maybe even to take it. I mean, he is unique. Let's say it that way. He's a very unique caster. Some people compare me with Frostbeal, and he's kind of more like the race caster. I like his casting style, but I'm not sure. So we're gonna see. Hopefully, I'm just gonna get nominated. That's my goal, and hopefully, you will be accompanying me on that nominee spot. But yeah, anyways, let's go back to the competitions here. I mean, is there any competition that really was sticking out to you when we take the comparison Trackmania 2 to the new Trackmania game right now?
Well, I mean, me personally, if we look at the comparison between Trackmania 2 and the new Trackmania, what of course I was always going to be most looking forward to is how tech tournaments would transfer over. I did kind of get a little bit of an answer with the ALM Cup, but the ALM Cup was always looked at as a bit more casual. It was always, a bit more laid-back approach taken by some of the teams, not taking it as seriously. And, of course, coming later into the year, CPS was announced and is since underway with the group stage, just finishing up this coming weekend. And for the first time in a long time, we've seen some real high-tier teams coming together into a very, very competitive League One, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing the climax of that, of course. But yeah, I mean, CPS is something I've especially been looking forward to. I've also been keeping track of some of the other tournaments which have offered a very strong variety and a very interesting variety, as you've been mentioning there. Particularly the 2 that caught my eye most was TTCS, which we both participated in, and also the Trackmania Formula League, which has had its first season since concluding, which Wosile managed to win, if I do remember correctly, with Patrose second and Dexter coming in third. So congratulations, of course, to the top 3 for Trackmania Formula League. But yeah, I suppose within... I remember a few weeks past and a few episodes past, I was bringing up the problem or bringing up the issue I had, as I felt I didn't really have a lot to do in Trackmania. I didn't feel like there was a lot of competitions that really stoked my interest, stoked my fires to, load up the game, practice or train or something like that. And I feel within the past 2 to 3 months, we've really kind of been spoiled a little bit now. I think maybe I should just complain about things more and then we'll get them in overabundance. So, yeah, I mean, we've had so many cups that you've mentioned. There's so many cups that we've been involved in, both casting and driving, of course, with, with exception even of Trackmania Grand League, which we've been talking about for most of our past 2 months. But was there any specific competitions out of all of these, either through your involvement in them or through your interest in them, really kind of stuck out to you this within the past period?
Yeah, so definitely to start it off with, it was probably the PK Arc, by just the format that is way better than Trackmania Grand League, where you collect points over the steps and then the top 16 qualifies to the actual playoffs. Was also very good to watch. I watched the spam POV, so something really fresh and new thing to be brought up with. On the other hand, we had the negative example with the ALM Cup, where we had a lot of difficulties from the server and stuff like that. So I was hoping to see a proper tech event again, and also a team tech event. We have that now with CPS, where I'm also involved in, as well as you. Maybe you're gonna see ourselves in the relegation match, because we are right now 36-0 and 6-0 in the score.
Wow.
But yeah, I only played 2 matches, but my guys are blasting it. I mean, it's Division 5. But yeah, this is probably the events like coming to tech now. And also, like, in general, the last couple of months was really heavy for me when it comes to team tournaments. We have the CPS announced a team tournament. Then we had the TDCS announced, so the Trackmania Time Chasers Championship Series, and now another trio competition, and also like the Cup of the Day brings so much more casual gameplay to that, which I really like. I really like that. We were complaining about that, I think, even 5 or 6 episodes ago, and now it's like we have so many competitions, and you can also like play them, not take it too seriously, and just enjoy it, like you do it on CPS, like I was doing it with Jeffso and Devos on the TTCS. So that's really cool to see the development of the game, that people understood that it's also a about not playing alone, but finding a team and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And I mean, that's kind of it for me. When I check my sheet here, what other events do we have? I mean, I'm really looking forward to the Spam Cup that he has announced, where it's also a qualification with a seeding, which is going on 7 days, and then the top 16 will qualify to the playoffs. And I think there will also be some spicy prize money. Then there is also the French regionals have been announced. Dude, New Harry Cup, then trio competitions, dude. So many things. Then, of course, the Four Styles Cup as well, which I'm really looking forward to, and I hope that you're gonna participate in as well. The Cannonball Cup. Yeah, so I'm just calling it like that, so because it's really similar. But I'm really looking forward to that. A very, very huge variety of events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've like I said, it feels like we've really kind of been spoiled a little bit recently with all of these kind of events coming to the fore, things we can participate in, things we can cast, and things still of a great variety, as we're mentioning there, with TTCS, of course, representing all the kind of competitive styles in Trackmania. Then you have things that kind of, bring all the styles together in something like the Cannonball Run, as it's called, the Four Styles competition you were mentioning there by Pizzle. Of course, I believe the map for that's something like 15 minutes long or something ludicrous like that. So definitely it will be an interesting challenge for anyone to be tackling on there. And then you have your more, of course, the Ubisoft Trio Cup as well, what worthy of a mention there, with multi-style maps in there, not necessarily conforming to one specific competitive style, more an amalgamation of a different few ones. I think that's the right way to use that word. I'm not really sure. But anyway, before I get distracted by my shortcomings in English, we think back to some other tournaments which are either having been announced or are ongoing. Of course, CPS, which was it was set in stone almost in kind of tech, that you would always have a CPS each year. I mean, it is its 22nd edition after all. I mean, we'd almost caught up with it in episodes, and we've been talking here for, it feels like, months. So if they've been doing, if they've been doing an edition or two a year, I mean, that just goes to show how long they've been in the business. And yeah, as I said, they're on edition 22 now. And also, when you look at some other things, the full speed scene is looking like it's got a lot of tournaments on the up. I believe the Full Speed Masters, I think, might be the next tournament coming up from them. I believe there'll be one in winter, and then one in the first quarter of 2021 as well. So we do still have conventional tournaments coming in for those who are, not limiting themselves to one style, but competing in a singular style, either tech, full speed, or something like that. Although there is one thing in all this kind of mass variety that I'm seeing. One thing that I'm kind of missing out on a little bit, I don't know if you've noticed it at all, and the new Trackmania at least, is almost an absence of dirt tournaments recently. I'm not very much seeing a lot of dirt events being hosted. I'm not very much seeing a lot of dirt matches being played even, despite dirt being one of the foundations of competitive Trackmania, arguably along with Full Speed and Tech being, the holy trinity when it comes to competitive Trackmania, with the rest, kind of playing more supporting roles, so to speak, with the likes of RPG and so on. But I think that Dirt definitely is a little bit of a step behind here. Is that something you've noticed at all?
I mean, yes, I definitely have noticed that. But from my perception, it was like that we didn't really have too many Dirts events. Of course, we had the TMM Dirt events, if you remember correctly. Also, I was talking to Eric about that yesterday. Also, a match which could have become match of the year, if you maybe remember the Trackmania Open Dirt. So we had the TMO and the TMM. I think TMM was at the beginning of 2020 and TMO was in the middle of 2020, or just second quarter of it. And I mean, this just shows that I've casted so many matches, and I've created a playlist with 40 matches in this year that I've casted, where I would say, those are the best matches. Maybe I'm gonna make a rewind of that. And I mean, the Dirt match is one of the top 5 matches I've casted. Or just from the style, not from my casting or something like that. Just for how close it was, and I think it's definitely something that is in need of in in the new Trackmania, because I mean there are new blocks that have been added to the item pool and stuff like that. So the opportunities are there, and it seems like that the people are lacking a sort of organizer for Dirt when it comes to that, because I think TMM is done or gone from that by organizing a Dirt competition, and in general, there weren't too many Dirt competitions, and I think they're still playing more Trackmania 2. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah, it's definitely unfortunate to see that there's not, like, let's say the FSL, the Full Speed League, right? This is always organized by one party from that, and from Dirt, we don't have a party anymore to organize a competition like that. So I think that's the thing that we are lacking on right now on Dirt.
Mm-hmm. I think it's always a bit of an issue when you talk about things like this, in the sense that a lot of these efforts are normally spearheaded by, one or two figures. And Full Speed, I suppose you could say, it's been spearheaded by people the likes of Nathan, for example, who's now, I believe, head of the Trackmania division of Numalops. Basically has almost a full styles community organised events at the moment, being spearheaded by one person, so to speak. I'm sure, of course, he's got his repertoire of staff available on the back end and that side of things. But I mean, you think over to tech at the moment, to typical tech tournaments, and it's either individuals who are going through these events, say back in PTC, you at least had a duo. It was Asura and Bara, if I remember correctly. Mm. Or on the other side of things, you have very small organizations. So we talk about the Trackmania Stars guys, where we've got the likes of, Shocker, Buzzy, what's his name again, Zaire, and things like that. Like very small groups of people. Of course, Trackmania Masters, which is no longer a thing anymore, was still only, 2 people, 3 people, something like that, which I think is definitely unfortunate when you think of it this way. I mean, it always feels like, a lot of the tournaments that people look forward to in these years, think CPS for tech was always the kind of the tier 1 team tournament, which was being held throughout the years in tech, was always organised by a group of 2-3 people or something like that. And we've seen in years gone past the likes of STC Stadium Tech Championship, I believe it was called, what can happen when the admin team loses interest or loses motivation is that event just goes, which I think is important now that we've got, kind of new waves of kind of event organisers coming into the game, is that, I mean, I feel in some sort of ways your conventional styles are getting left behind a little bit. In the same way that you think your new players coming into the game are coming into the game now with their competitive desire to be a great multi-style player. They're not coming into the game wanting to be a great dirt player, a great tech player, a great full speed player. In the same way that you're not going to come into the game wanting to create tech, dirt, full speed tournaments if it's not what you're specifically interested in. So I'm curious to see if there's some sort of figures there that are going to bring a little bit more to either of these kind of environments, so to speak. We've seen some successful efforts coming, albeit from quite an isolated community in United, with ULR and such efforts like that, with some team tournaments and solo tournaments coming, which have really garnered quite a good bit of interest back in what a lot of people said was, people were saying before this year that, they were thinking that if they brought a new Trackmania game out, they might as well just shut down United and Nations and things like that, because no one was playing it. And if people were playing it, it wasn't people who were, thoroughly invested in the game. It wasn't people like you are seeing now who are participating in tournaments, who are organising tournaments, who are generating their own kind of organic interest in, what they're participating towards. So an interesting future, I think, at hand for the tournament scene in general, but one I think might lead to less variety instead of more, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement, actually. Less variety instead of more, because you just named that people, when starting the game, not going on a server, playing RPG maps, playing tech maps, playing mini techs, they are playing just multi-style maps. And this is what most competitions are currently about. Also, like, let's say the main event or the most prestigious events for, let's say, semi-casual to almost professional gamers is, of course, the Open Grand League. It's the Open Grand League to participate in the Combine. And with that, you have practice with the multi-style environment because the maps are just solely multi-style. Of course, you have also like the Solary Cup where we had like mixed maps, I think, where we had a tech map, RPG. I don't know the exact maps there, but I mean, it is very very different compared to that, and it's not focusing on one style like the CPS where you already mentioned. It's CPS 22. I've also played CPS way back in 2016, if I recall correctly, also for Team Eden, or 2017 or something like that. But this just shows how like well established this is in the game. I'm not sure how old CPS is, but I would guess more than 5 years. I don't even know when the first CPS was. Maybe you can tell me it there or something like that. Maybe
CPS 16 was 5 years ago. So, I mean,
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, and we're talking 2006, I think CPS is 2007, something like that.
Yeah, I thought like it was with the beginning of Trackmania too, but okay,
no.
Then we have it. So you can see a well-established event, which is still very prestigious and like well accepted by the community, versus an event. Let's say Tacoons is organizing a lot of events. Then we have Hector organizing so many events, and also Velu with the Near Harry Cup. But I'm working with those people together all of the time, and they are behind so many or they're like the persons who I can talk to, who are organizing a lot behind the scenes and helping out the other people. But they are like the main people right now who are organizing events. And I think it's good to have 3 people. But on the other hand, yes, it would be cool that people would try to like put in a dirt competition, which would be super cool. But I'm not sure if this would find so much interest. Maybe that's what they're scared of, that a multi-style competition will bring them more players compared to a just dirt or just full speed or just tech competition. Because I mean, we have in full speed, we have Nathan, you named it, who is always organizing the full speed competitions. Then we have the CPS team, we have the From Zero to Hero and stuff like that. So maybe they're scared that they can't make it's as good or closely as good as the competition, and that's why they're not trying. And maybe for dirt, they think, okay, I can make also a multi-style competition because with that I can reach out to more people. What is your opinion about that? That's just in a think-wise that was coming up to my mind right now.
I think it's a very good point that a lot of competitive organisers at the moment who are thinking, what kind of competition do I want to make, are going to be thinking 2 very important questions. How many people are going to be playing my cup, and how many people are going to be watching my cup? Now, I mean, the watching side of things is simple. As long as you put up good matches, as long as you put up an interesting spectacle, people will watch. That just tends to be the kind of formula in Trackmania. However, the issues with that do exist, of course. But how many people will play? And I think the problem that really a lot of the other the singular disciplines falter in is that they are old news almost, in the sense that, going back to my original statement, that new players who come into this game are being filtered down one way, and that's the multi-style way. Not to say that they are, they're blocked off from trying these other things, but this is what everyone else is doing. This is what the trend is at the moment, and this is what the trend as it looks to continue, is that it's going to be multi-style tournaments, it's going to be multi-style maps, and that your skills that are demanded are going to be of a much wider base. It's not going to be just tech that's going to be asked of you, just dirt that's going to be asked for you, or something like that. What I think is important for this now, though, is that you are going to see the majority of the new tournament organisers that come into this game focusing on multi-style. So that does, of course, leave questions for the likes of your singular environments, because, I mean, the way I think of it, right, you can bring back dirt tournaments, but who's going to play dirt tournaments? Who's going to play dirt tournaments is dirt players. That's who's going to be playing Dart tournaments. I mean, I know obviously it sounds elementary me saying this. Well, yes, Dart players are going to be playing Dart tournaments and so on, but you may get interest from the newer community who are coming in from multi-style, but your primary audience is going to be a singular community, and that is going to be the Dart community. It's the same as would go for tech and as would go for full speed. Full speed tournaments aren't, engineered to specifically appeal to tech players or multi-style players. They're specifically engineered to appeal to full speed players. And while I think it's important that these styles do remain pure in a sense that, full speed doesn't get convoluted by mixed mapping styles. For example, we don't see Dart wall rides coming in or something ludicrous like that. I think it's putting a question on what the future holds for these different environments, and it's something I'm very interested in. But a kind of question I'd pose to you a little bit. Now, this was something that I've kind of wrestled with in my mind for a few years now. Now, we have a number of events that have kind of built up the prestige. So, what I would give a prime example of is CPS. Now, I would say CPS is a prestigious tournament. Not prestigious on the terms of Trackmania Grand League, not even close. But just in terms of your typical online event, CPS does hold some prestige. When you say you're a CPS winner, it means something. It's not just that you're a winner of some random cup. I'm a CPS winner. I think that's kind of cool. Come on.
We are all winners. No, just kidding.
Yeah, but anyway, one thing that I found a little bit interesting about, so you have these competitions that have built up their prestige. You have these kind of admin teams, like for example, when the From Zero to Hero staff come in, you lend a bit of prestige to that event because of who is then attached to it. Like you have Massine or Omnipots or all these sort of people come back. It's going to be a good event, or at least it's the kind of the brand almost can associate that with. Now, before I get too far away from my point, you have a large amount of events now coming into this game. Now, it reminds me of conversations I had actually with Revolution, former M&M player, former Trackmania Grand League participant, if you guys know him. Now, he used to play all of these kind of smaller competitions that would have a little bit of prize pool up for them. He called them, although it does sound like a detrimental term, and it probably is, he called them shit cups, right? So we would ask him each week as we would come on for CPS, are you playing any shit cups this week? And then he'd say, yes, this, and this. And he'd go and win all these tournaments, win all this prize money. But it was a lot of smaller scale tournaments. There's a lot of tournaments which don't have very well-known organisers, don't have that kind of prestige of multiple editions behind them, don't have that, big streamer backing them up or something like that. And something I would kind of pose as then a question to you is I do feel not to label these cups as shit cups, because that is a bit of a derogatory term. It's not to say that these cups are lacking in quality or anything like that, but I feel like at the moment we're getting a lot of quantity in cups. Not to say that we're not getting a lot of quality in cups, but we're getting a lot of cups which are getting missed in transition. Eirik recently posted up on Twitter about the fact that he wasn't able to keep up with all of the tournaments. You tell me you've casted tournaments that I didn't even know happened. We're having a lot of tournaments that are really that are pulling off, well executed tournaments, lovely maps, maybe even tight matches, depending on what players find out about it and so on. But we're having a lot of tournaments that are flying under the radar, a lot of tournaments that aren't getting the attention they need. And I would identify that as being a little bit of an issue with our current environment. I mean, how do you feel about that? Because you've, of course, been working with a lot of these events that, had I not been speaking to you week in, week out, I probably wouldn't have known about.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was kind of casting the shit cups, let's just say like that, because I was seeing Revolution Day a lot of times. And it was actually a little bit the end of his era. But let's just take Elite Cup. Let's just take this event. I mean, maps it's the 4th edition that we've had this weekend or the prior weekend. We had a banger of an event. We had a prize pool of €320. I think that before that it was 100 or so not worth speaking of compared to a big event now. I mean, 100 to 300, it's 3 times more. Great math skills there. But I mean, I'm going to open my sheet now, which the preparation, and I will read out who were the mappers of this, right? Firestorm, Deska, Superl, TM Lenny, Nexotica, Kiesler. Does that ring any bell to you who built those tracks? Just asking you. Yeah, just a few. But just the development of this tournament in the third hold of this cup, it was a shit show of a map. It was a shit show, but it was fun because it was like more of a Zerator event. But now they've established something unique, I would say. They had maps. The maps were different in their own style. They were very good maps and also a huge competition there. I mean, we had Revolution playing. We had Hugo in the final. Then we also had Turus in the final and Dionysos. And Carl went out in the semifinal. So I think, and that's my point, a cup has to develop at first. I mean, I don't want to know how CPS1 went. Let's just say it like that. Of course, it was way back in 2006. And also, I don't know how the first Zerator Cup goes or runs. A cup has to develop, and you have to start to be a shit cup or like just a small cup to see, okay, is this working out? Is this going good? Do I have a miscalculation or anything like that? Because the first time you're going to organize an event, and I can speak by heart, and maybe you as well, when you've organized an event yourself, you will make mistakes and not everything will go flawless. That's the thing. And I think with that, I think the Elite Cup 4 is the best example of how an event can develop with that. And that's what people have to try, just to find mistakes and just try to keep them on a minimum. So that's my opinion about that. I mean, what is your opinion? I mean, of course, there's the Elite Cup now, which had a very, very good development. Then also the Near Harry Cup. But of course, there's still some meme cups. And do you think that the influence of Zerator had a superior role for that? I mean, still for now, let's say it. So it had an impact, but is it still there? Would you say that?
I'm not sure how to kind of read any of Zerator's influence into this. What I would say is we've had more kind of community profiles coming into Trackmania, and of course a majority of them would have been from France by nature of the influence of this game being very popular in France. And it feels like what I think is not necessarily, well, I say causing a problem as in it's a really bad thing. It's really not, but has really kind of contributed to the issue which I'm bringing up, is a lot of very small scale tournaments that will have prize pools in them, which is obviously very good. It's always great to be driving a tournament which does have some sort of reward to it, but that there's a lot of them. And I would say you could attribute some influence to the likes of just French influence in general. But what I would kind of look to, so we've seen a lot of events not really have a lot of prestige earned to them. Like you've mentioned Elite Cup there. Elite Cup, now, from you talking about it and me listening to it, I would then be more likely to be more interested in it next time it comes about. You've lent a little bit of prestige to that. You've lent a little bit of credibility to that. Yeah. One of the other main examples, which I'm sure you'll remember, is Sphera's Cup. Sphera's, to some people, was, a random, kind of tier 3 team in tech at some point. They would host a cup, with a little bit of prize pool that I felt...
Out of nowhere.
The early versions of the cup fell into the kind of void of not really being paid a lot of attention to. Really? People didn't really take much of an into account. But ended with the likes of Sphera's Cup 4, which had, I think, 1,000 or something like that coming out of somewhere. And then some, people started taking note. Casters started getting involved. Then it started to build itself up a little bit. Of course, I'm not then suggesting that all of these shit cups, again, I'm using that term almost affectionately now, I suppose. But all of these small scale cups just pull 1,000 euros out of their arse. That's not what I'm suggesting. But it came out of nowhere for them as well. They had one edition which was very well hyped up, and then they managed to translate that into a LAN event even. With, I think, what was the 5th edition, if I do remember correctly. where you had high tier profiles playing, albeit not in the LAN final because most of them dropped out for some reason. But you had very, very high tier competition. You had many of those matches being featured, or moments or surprises being featured in the awards categories for that year. I believe it was mentioned an offline event of the year, if I do remember at all correctly. But yeah, I mean, you had Spheres Cup come out of absolutely nowhere and really make something of itself. And I dare to think that if another edition was hosted along the same lines, as Spheres Cup 6 or 7 or whatever edition it would be on now, you would have quite a good amount of interest in it. But what I would like to see, right, because what I identify as a little bit of a problem here, you have a lot of tournaments in Trackmania at the moment, very small scale tournaments, things that, Revel would define as a shit cup. Whether he still does that or not, I don't know. But it's all like someone's little project. It's all like, a small streamer's hosting a small event. One person's holding a small event. They've put whatever they could towards a prize pool, and then that's it. It's over. People have forgot about it and moved on to the next one. I'd like to see these sort of interested parties grouping together, pooling their resources together, even if it's something as simple as pooling a prize pool together, which of course they're easily capable of. We think, Eirik mentions 28 out of the 39 events so far in Trackmania got a prize pool of less than €250. Now, we can reasonably assume that, say, 20 out of them are between the €100 to €200 mark, right? Now, how would you look at this, right? So, shall we say you have 20 cups which have a prize pool of between €100 to €200. So let's just say, I don't know, 150 to make things simple. Would you rather have 20 cups with 150 prize pool, or would you rather have, say, what would that be? 5 cups, sorry. I was just trying to do the maths in my head there, so you times that by 4, with 600 prize pool. I mean, personally, I'd rather see the 5 cups, especially when we talk about the timescale that Trackmania has been out for now. 39 events so far since, what was it, June, July the game came out? So we're talking July. 4 or 5 months. 4 or 5 months, and we've had 39 events out of there. And I don't know if I could name 10 of them. However,
I did one.
Yeah, we've done some of these events, but I'm saying I don't think I can name a majority of them, which I think is a problem for me because they're not as memorable to me, But I personally would prefer seeing, a lot of these organizations or small personalities grouping together and giving us this instead of, 30 events where people wouldn't remember most of them. Give them 5 or 6 events that they will remember, that they'll look forward to competing in, that they'll seek out, because you bring some more interest into that. You have, even if it's just simple as a higher prize pool, you might get some more prestigious players. You might have, like, say, Spam who'll train it, who'll bring 7 or 500 extra viewers to it week in, week out. You'll have Realo playing it, you have Massive playing. It doesn't matter who it is, but it has better chance to generate interest, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I organized an event in the near Trackmania already with my, Turbos Multi-Star Cup. And I did it on my own because I was thinking, okay, I want to create something that is unique. And I'm actually, it's a good thing, Wes, because it's something I've not considered that you were mentioning. Because let's just say, I would put, let's say, Hector, he organized the French Regional Cup. Let's just say I put him in the boats, then I would build like 2 maps, 2 like okay maps, and some people would help me, and other people would also build maps. I don't know, something like that. And then he would say, okay, I give you the platform, you gonna stream, and then it would attract other people as well to participate in that cup. What was also lacking for me is that, let's say, Riolu and Spam couldn't participate in this cup because they had other things to do in their life. I think they were on holidays or something like that, but I didn't really get a lot of publicity else from just my viewers. But that was my intention of rewarding my viewers. So that was my intention why I didn't pick someone else, because I wanted to reward the people who are friends of me in Trackmania, who are watching my stream, and I wanted to reward them and give them a kind of cup to play with. So that was my idea. But I think a lot of cups are similar in this way, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, we have a lot of cup modes in a single elimination bracket where it's starting on the occasional Saturday 14, then you survive the first day, and second day it's from 17 to 19 or 20. So that's your default cup. And I very much agree with that people should maybe stick together and try to see if they have the same vision. But a thing that makes that problematic is that we have a lot of different parties that are right now involved in Trackmania. Let's just say the TDCS and the Trio Cup will combine, but it's something way different. It's same but also different again, and there's a variety of events still with a Tech Cup, with a multi-style cup, and maybe they also wanna have a different type of schedule or something like that. But maybe people haven't even considered that. So I think that's the problem. Maybe they should just organize themselves a little bit better. And I couldn't also name you more than 10 events coming to the new Trackmania that had a price pool of less than 200 of less than 250 euro, despite me casting a lot of that. I mean, I get asked to cast a lot, but I don't know. Why just not have a bigger competition than that? Because then you have to train less, you can prepare yourself more. Of course, it's more stacked. Maybe that's the issue. Let's say for me, as a rather new player in the professional scene, I find it very hard to compete against that. Let's just say multi-style beasts, to compete against them and to win something there. So maybe it's hard again to get into the top 10 or something like that for me. And then I maybe want to play a smaller cup or something like that. That's the argument against that we only have 5 events instead of 20.
Mm-hmm. I think what the important thing to take from that is, and the reason why I did choose a very specific number of 20, is that we think that 20 out of 39 events, right? So the reason why I suggest this, so you have, instead of having 39 small scale events, you'll have some of these groups kind of merge together, make a larger scale event, which will provide the next step of competition. Then you have 19 spots for people like yourself who want to reward their communities, so to speak. They want to give back. They want to, their cup is more focused on giving back rather than taking in, so to speak. You have your room for competitions like that. You have your room for entry level tournaments, because here's another problem with Trackmania at the moment, right? So say you are someone who's been playing Trackmania maybe a year or so. You're fancying yourself as being pretty decent. You are wanting to get involved in a competitive side in Trackmania, right? Every single competition you go into, you're going to get fucking destroyed, right? That's the problem with Trackmania.
TTCS on dirt.
Yeah, we look TTCS, right? But you think even these events, which you would say are small scale prize pool tournaments, right? You think an event that's maybe €100 or something like that. And most other games, although other games have much varying community sizes, you're going to have a significantly smaller level of competition than you would at a higher tier event, say, Trackmania Grand League level, and in translation. But what happens in this game, because there's a very wide gulf. There's all of these small kind of cups happening here, then there's Trackmania Grand League. There's nothing here. There's no mid-tier events. There's no in-between. So it means that anyone who's not involved in Trackmania Grand League, if they want to make something of themselves, either through practice, through scrims as it would be in say some other games, if they want to sharpen their skills, if they want to get any sort of prize money, they have to go through all of these small cups, which means the players that are these cups should be aimed towards, your entry level tournaments, are getting stomped in round 1 and round 2 by players like Super Carlo, for example, who was on the verge of qualifying for Trackmania Grand League, but is playing all of these smaller tournaments to hone his skills because there's not that next stepping stone there for him. You're having players like Hugo, players like Taurus, players like Dionysus, and all these sort of Aurel and all the rest of it. Even some Trackmania Grand League players, because there's nothing in between the shit cups, so to speak, and the top tier. You'll have Zerator Cup, which will be at the top tier at some point of the year. You'll have Trackmania Grand League / Combine, which will be at some point of the year. But Combine, of course, doesn't reward you with anything other than a TMGL spot. But
that's a good reward, actually.
Yeah, of course, it's a good reward, but we're just in terms of what it will actually get you. It's something you'd be playing anyway, so to speak, in the kind of sense of the players we're talking about here. But yeah, I think that would also give an important next level for Trackmania in terms of competition. It's important to have different tournaments, not only variety in terms of what the tournament brings to the table, in maps and format, but also in the role that tournament plays. Is this a tournament intended for the development of upcoming players, for the development of talent who maybe don't have the time to be plundering all of these hours into these high tier tournaments? Is the tournament intended a sort of practice arena almost for your high tier players? Is it intended then more as the next step, for your players who are aspiring to be in top level tournaments, playing against top tier opposition? That's something that I think is an interesting gap to be filled in Trackmania. But I suppose it's always a problem you're going to have when you do have players who are just playing everything, You do have players who are even playing these small-scale tournaments and, walking away with a top 4 at every single event and taking on all comers. But, I mean, I want to see this role filled, personally. I want to, this hole filled, of events which could provide a much-needed next step for a lot of players who are, I think, they're outside of the Trackmania Grand League bubble and are just lost at the moment. They've got nothing for them outside of Combine at the moment, bar playing in small competitions, which are, maybe €100 at a time that not a lot of people watch, not a lot of people even remember. So yeah. I definitely would like to see some more coming out of there at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thinking wise, and I have so many things in my mind actually that I want to talk about while you were mentioning that. I mean, but let's just say there's the Trackmania Grand League, and I think Trackmania Grand League describes the problem by itself, because you have Trackmania Grand League, and then you have, let's say, Combine, and the players in the Combine, let's just say in the top league, can qualify. The players from the OGL can qualify to the Combine, and they can eventually make it or not. That is the top tier events for me. And the other things is the shitty events. So the players will be left aside, but with the other fact that someone like, let's say, Afi or Aurel just comes in there and casually stumps them. I remember it from me playing Flash Cup 1, a tournament with a prize pool of 200 euros, so also a smaller event way back in Trackmania 2, where the top 16 has qualified to the actual event and the seeding. I qualified, and I wasn't really good on the tracks that were up there, but top 4 would have advanced into the final. And then there was someone like Afi, 5 hours of practice on the whole cup on 6 maps, and just stumped me. He stumped me like crazy. And I played the tracks for 20 hours. I mean, there's a difference, because it feels like the Trackmania Grand League players, they are so on another level. It's so hard in Trackmania to become actually good that you can compete against them. Because let's just say I will compete in the next competitions. I won't get the experience that a Trackmania Grand League player has right now, and it's such a long way, and exactly a mid-tier event where I can put all my energy in is missing. Because what I have now is I have plenty of cups where I cannot decide what to play, and then I have, 5 map packs that I have to practice in 1 month, And this is just super overwhelming for a player to compete in that. It's a good thing because then you can play more competitions and get yourself more like used to the situation of coping pressure. But on the other hand, you have too much to practice for and you don't know where to start. So it's a bit of an overwhelming situation. So yeah, maybe we have too many cups in Trackmania actually. Is that what you were a little bit off for? Or and also not competitions that are in the middle between, let's just say, from prize pool wise or from the prestige between your Elite Cup, which is right now, of course, rising a little bit more because it had more prize pool and everything like that. Let's say 2A from 0 to hero level.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? You think of almost what we do have as a kind of good example as now is the tech scene, right? So we think the difference between a Trackmania World Championship and what were the tech tournaments at the time. The majority of the people who were involved in TMWC 2018 were not playing in team tournaments anymore. These were players that were only interested in the highest tier of events. These were not players who were coming in and stomping people week in, week out. You know, the ex-Dignitas or expert lineup was no longer playing in your regular team tournament, so to speak. You had a lot of the players who were, you know, formerly part of E-Corp who were no longer playing in team tournaments anymore. You had Aegir who was kind of moving away from team tournaments. You had the Sampi guys, you know, Kronos, Kappa, Dutchy, you know, Tween as well, and TMWC, who were not playing in team tournaments anymore. And I thought that, well, of course, it doesn't really give as good an example in the sense of, you know, a mid-tier event, but you did have competitions like ESL, which were then giving a lot of chances to other kinds of teams and other kinds of players. You know, other kinds of teams and players were having playoffs experience now. We're having deep runs in tournaments now because there was the people at the top weren't there. But to bring ourselves back to the original point there, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think there should be less tournaments. I think, like, here's the thing. It's easy enough for me to say that there should be more mid-tier events. It's not as if these tournament organisers out there can just make their cups more popular or make their cups more in demand. It takes time, it takes work, it takes a little bit of luck along the way as well. But here's the thing, right? Imagine you're a Trackmania Grand League player. Let's give Afi as an example, as you pointed him out there. Also, let's think a player who's aspiring to be part of Trackmania Grand League. Now, what I learned from Intech is there's a very, very big bubble of players at the top level. And I mean this by players who are competing in tournaments like Trackmania Grand League, also players who could compete to be in Trackmania Grand League. So we're talking players like, you know, Hugo, Chalik, you know, Hydra, Volnera, you know, a lot of strong players in, you know, either disciplines. I mean, even I might be in that group. Who knows? You know, a lot of these players, like, you know, McQuattro, you could name an exponential. You could name a great amount of.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say. But below that, there's quite a big gap, right? So there's this kind of bubble at the top for players who are who have clearly spent a very long time. Their interest in the game has primarily been competing, has been honing skills. You know, Trackmania has become less about just going on and having fun and, you know, random servers for them. But the thing is, right, so these people are all aspiring to be part of Open Grand League, Trackmania Grand League. What do these people do when these tournaments aren't on? Trackmania Grand League players, some of your bigger personalities might be fine because they just stream and they get paid for it anyway. You know, their interest in Trackmania is as much as, you know, it still gets them paid. You know, that might not be the way it is for some of them, but you could look at that as a very superficial take on it. As in, some of these people will just play campaign, not necessarily because they're interested in campaign, but because they want to stream Trackmania so they'll get their viewers going and so on and so forth. You know, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone or anything like that. You know, that's just the way it is for some people nowadays. But you think players who are very competitively minded, two very good examples, or at least, of course, one formerly of Trackmania Grand League, Yannex, Afi, and Aurel. Now, these three players do compete in a lot of these smaller scale tournaments. Some of them, Yannex trains for some of them. Yannex even organised some of them. Aurel will prepare for the tournaments he participates in. Afi, albeit lightly sometimes, will prepare for some of these tournaments he participates in. Gwen also, I mean, the reaper of some of these smaller events. I mean, the amount of first places he took home last year at these smaller events was incredible. But what I think to this is, I think that to give an incentive on the mid-tier, say an event that came round every month and a half, that kind of took up the interest of these higher tier players, these people in this bubble, it will create a little bit more space down at the bottom for these other smaller tournaments that are running along the same times, that maybe have players that aren't as skilled, that have players that aren't as experienced. Because let's face it, I mean, I've had this experience. My very first LAN event was Gamers Assembly 2017, right? I jumped straight into that. There is no mid-tier in LAN events for tech. You have your mid-tier kind of going through the divisions and CPS online and stuff like that. I'm here competing in A&E community team in like fucking Division 20 or something like that. And my very first LAN event match is against Shelley, who's a very well accomplished tech player, and Onyo.
Yeah, Onyo is okay.
who ended up for those who didn't follow that event, I believe Onyo got 5th in Gamers Assembly that year, and that was my very, very first LAN event match. Me being a pleb, not even out of A&E community team. But there was no event for me to kind of wet my feet in the LAN event experience. There was no event for me in tech at the time. There wasn't a Trackmania Pro League back then.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm getting at here. There's no space at the bottom. There's no space for new people to come into it, really. New people come into these events, they're going out in the first round. They're going out, in the second round. They're going out in the seeding. They're not getting the chance to get this experience that allows them to morph themselves into a better player, so to speak. I mean, I've been through that. One of the times I used to really, of course, not to say I don't anymore, I used to really get along very well with Softy back in 2017, 2018, because I really, really appreciated the Trackmania Pro League efforts and a lot of the efforts he made through the XS Team Cup and things like that. Because I can easily say Trackmania Pro League was the best thing to happen to me as a tech player. That was my chance. Although I wasn't, a top 16 player, I wasn't going to qualify for a world championship. But these type of tournaments are the tournaments that would have enabled me the possibility to do so. They would have enabled me the grounds to develop my skills, to compete against good players, to compete in LAN event scenarios, and to have a chance because I would be in Division 2 or something like that. But I don't think that exists in Trackmania at the moment. All that happens is you have all the tournaments being played by the same players and having the same result. That's how I kind of feel about it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you want to say that they are, well, how can I get my point across? I mean, for me, it's the problem that probably when you put most effort into the game, you are the best. That's just the curl that I have. But let's just say you practice the most for the tournament. Let's say I practice most for the tournament. I'm not that tournament experienced. Then there's pressure coming in. Then there's this and that coming in. And then a player who is easily just way more competitive than me can beat me. So I think the problem that we have in Trackmania right now is that we have too many good players. Is that a fact that's the community is so well established? And let's just take someone starts with a game. Let's just take who started with that? Maybe Pizzle. Pizzle is also a streamer. And I can just see by he's playing outstandingly well for his play time. Of course, he's grinding a lot, but he is missing so much experience in this game. And also, like a factor, I can make my point of view across here. When I started playing a competition, my first competition was Zerator Cup 2067, Zerator Cup 4 or something like that. So I didn't really play competitions. I played TTC. I know that there is some sort of pressure going on, but I ran onto the big stage at first, and then I was in the round of 8, and I was like, what the fuck? I'm playing against Race Hunt's Cap Tween, and I was completely overwhelmed in this round of 8. Eventually I got 5th, and didn't get through, but it was such a good experience for me to just cope the pressure there. But it was one tournament for me, and yeah, then I tried my best. Of course, I didn't really stick to the game that long, or like not at all. For the time I started other games, I was busy in real life and stuff like that. So it's really hard. And I think a thing that is maybe should come here is like a division where you say, okay, those players are knocked out, let's say in the top 32, but they will still fight it out for like the placements that they can play against players who are on their skill level. So that we take, let's say in the quarterfinal, we have 4 quarterfinals, or let's say round of 8, and then the bottom 8 goes out. That those bottom 8 players from both servers will just play against each other and will battle out 17th to 32nd placement as well, but just for them, that they can have more experience and eventually can climb up the ladder slowly but surely. Maybe that's a cool idea that I've had, actually.
Yeah. I mean, just from what you've kind of said there and what SRK said to you, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to suggest that organizers then would limit participation to people. Like, say, you're too good for this or you're not good enough for this or anything like that. All that I'm saying is here is that these players who are at the just outside of the Trackmania Grand League bubble, let me give an example of Hugo, right? Yeah. Hugo's a very frequent participator at these sort of events. Grenade, also a very, very frequent participator at these sort of events. So these sort of players do have a problem in the sense that, say something like, a Game World Duel Cup, right? I mean, I'd brought up arguments about that in not the last edition, the edition before, that it went too long. It went something like 2 days with, like, I don't know, like 10 rounds worth of match, right? Spanned over 2 days. Now, for most of these top level players, your first 6 matches, 7 matches are going to be a cakewalk. It's like a top level play. Like, I'll rephrase this. So, for example, when I would go and play Zerator Cup, I wouldn't train for it beforehand, but I would go into Zerator Cup and still breeze through the first few rounds because I'm a skilled player.
Indeed.
I've put a lot of time into this game. I've developed my skills.
A game sense, so-called, right?
Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way. My mechanics are good. Let's just put it that way. So I was able to breeze through some of these rounds without having trained. Now, the problem is that you have a lot of players who are in this similar scenario. They can breeze through against worse opposition without having trained as much. Or if they have trained as much, it's just insignificant rounds to them. It's rounds that you'll go into, you'll know who's going to win or who's going to get second place. So you have a lot of these players playing what essentially is useless matches. You'll have Grenade playing a few rounds at the start or a few matches at the start where it's not competitive. Fair enough. I understand, maybe your first match shouldn't be competitive because you're going against people at a much lower seed. But then your second match should be starting to get a bit competitive. Your third match should. And then so on and so forth. It should get more cut. And that is what it's designed to do. But because of this gulf, you're having a lot of people who want to play in this tournament who are not as high skill leveled as these. So you do end up having, I was casting, what was it, Game World Duel Cup again. And you would look at the team list and you go, okay, these people are going to be through. And you'd know it. It's not in a way to disrespect.
Started yet,
yeah. It's not in a way to disrespect the people who are part of it, right? But it's just clear. There's a clear gulf in skill. Now that's because everyone wants to play the same tournament, right? And that's because there isn't a scale in tournaments. There isn't tournaments that only lower level players are interested in. There isn't tournaments that only high-level players might feel that they have a chance in, for example. There's no scale. Like, you have people like Hugo and Grenade playing even the most minor of event around. That's what I said, that I feel there is a little bit of a void in the mid-tier that I think could be exploited.
Huge void, man.
But also to address what you said there, the thing is, right, sure, we have a lot of tournament, right? I don't necessarily think that would solve the issue, because we looked at this way, right? We cut down on the amount of tournaments, and then you'll have these players who'll just play, their 5 tournaments of like €600 prize pool, and then, okay, we'll finish that, and then they'll go and play all these smaller tournaments and smash everyone anyway, But, like, here's what I find I'm really good at doing in these podcasts, I'm good at introducing problems and not really how to fix them, I feel I'm really good at that. But I hope you see what I mean. Like if I think CS wise, now CS has a massively larger infrastructure. That's very clear. Regional events in terms of even cities, countries, then continents and so on. But you won't see top tier teams playing in small tier events. You won't see it.
Until you see it in Trackmania.
But you'll see top tier players playing in small tier events, and I mean, like Gamers Assembly hosted Counter-Strike tournaments where you'd have a few thousand euro prize pool. Actually, Zai Wu, who is now one of the best players in the world in Counter-Strike, was at Gamers Assembly 2017, and he sat behind me, if I do remember correctly. Yeah. So I've brushed back with greatness. Yeah, man. But anyway, before I get to I actually forgot about that until recently. Anyway,
he reminded you, right?
Yeah, but back then, of course, he was playing for a shitty team, But there was no big tier CS teams there. There was no teams I even knew about there. It was all small regional French teams that were playing at Gamers Assembly. And talking about CS, of course. But I think Trackmania, that's the direction I want Trackmania to evolve in, right? I want regional interests to start picking up. I want the Baltics to start picking up as they have been doing so. The French scene's already there. I want the Czechoslovakian region starting to get a few events here and there where it was radio silence for so many years.
The German scene.
Well, that's another one which has a big opportunity.
I cannot disclose that, but there's something I'm planning.
Well, that's good to hear. But I think we need to push into some sort of environment where more people can feel comfortable competing. And I don't mean this by rolling out the red carpet to people who aren't very well skilled and have them winning tournaments and pandering specifically to them. But we need to give everyone room to breathe. We need to give these less skilled players room to develop. We can't just have them going into round ones and get smashed straight out of a tournament because they get put up against fucking Hugo and Grenade. We can't have that because these people don't get experience. These people don't get the opportunity to play. It's like me and Gamers Assembly 2017, right? I get fucking nothing for experience because I get eat up and shat out by Onyo and Shelly. Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Shelly came to that match after I had 60 points because he was late. He was out at his car or something like that. Because we started the match like 10 minutes late. He still wasn't there. He came in and I had between 40 and 60 points. Can't remember. Onyo had already finished. Onyo had fucking obliterated me by this point. And he still won because I was that bad. My first time cars on, my first time having the experience of these maps in a competitive thing. But put it this way, right? A lot of players are having this issue at the moment. A lot of these players are having the issue where they're being thrown to the wolves. They're being thrown in at the deep end. And they're being thrown in at the deep end and getting told to swim. And a lot of them are drowning. A lot of them are having the instance that I did where I fucking collapsed and lost 5 finalist rounds in a row because I didn't know how to cope with all of this shit, I wasn't good enough for that. I hadn't learned enough for that. 2 years, like the next year, I ended up knocking out Shelley at the tournament. But there we go. That's the progression. The next GA, I got top 16. Like I'd had that experience. I'd had that ability to develop. I'd had the experience that with the cars on, with the cup mode and all the rest of this. And I think that's so important. But I think it's only the good players that are getting this at the moment. That's kind of how I feel about that, and I should probably stop ranting.
It's a good point, and I think I can definitely agree with that. And also, the comparison to Counter-Strike is actually like the thing that I also looking for, because right now I think Trackmania has a considerable small amount, or a small community. I mean, we have people who pull out insane numbers of viewers. I mean, Cup of the Day is getting a lot of attention. Also, Trackmania Grand League. But yeah, you said it. Besides that, there is not an event that people, which is comparable with that. Of course, there was Twitch Rivals and stuff like that. But yeah, when I play a competition, what event was that? I mean, also a French competition that I've heard like 2 days before that, but I've also tryharded it. And then there was someone like he woke up and he was like, okay, what is going on today? What's on the menu? Okay, let's inscribe for that. He played this map for 5 minutes and he was faster than me because it was just a stupid map with some stupid things that I didn't understand. I played this map for 1 hour or so. And, it's like, I was like, okay, come on. I made it to the semifinal eventually, but, I was like, okay, come on. Why did you play? Like, it's like it was a bit sad. Of course, he's better. He deserves that he went to the final. But it was a bit sad to see that. And usually you don't see that in Counter-Strike or so, that a huge player is playing a small competition. And maybe with that we need more. Yeah, what is the solution for that actually? Do we need more events at the same time? Do we need an event with more prize pool? Do we need more prize money for, let's say, 7th to 5th to 8th place as well? I don't know, man. It's like it's a weird thing for me, because it's again one of those things where I don't know a solution about. The only solution is, just play more, become better as a player. I mean, we could have seen the development from Granadi, from also Afi, how much they have improved over this year. This is a tremendous improvement. And I think eventually the player who practices more and plays the game more and understands more and is on the line and knows what is going on will eventually become the best. But the problem is just that we have a lot of good players in Trackmania, and just a small platform where people can prove themselves to just become or to win something. Because I mean, we have 39 tournaments in the new game. It's almost 5 months old now. That means we had, let's say, 25 weeks. That means, let's say, 2 events per week. I mean, I think in Counter-Strike you have fucking 20 events per day. So that's like the difference to that. We have a small amount of a community. We have very, very high-skilled community where, I mean, I have over 10,000 hours in this game, and you're probably close to the 5 amount of digit number as well. I would guess maybe like a little less than me. But I mean, I'm playing this game for 12 years, but I'm not a competitive gamer. But I would have had, when I had this amount of playing time in Counter-Strike, I could maybe earn money with that. And in Trackmania, I cannot. It's like, it's a double-edged sword that we have in Trackmania. A very good community, but a small platform for events, and also not the most interest from other people, except of the Rate Cup and Trackmania Grand League. So that's my observation from the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel I think it's kind of fair that we've kind of talked our point in that, and kind of leave you guys a little bit with food for thought in that, because I think it is a very interesting question. And as I said, I do feel that I'm very good at kind of posing questions that I don't know the answer to. But maybe by this time next week, you guys will have some answers for us and can come back to us with your ideas. I mean, we have seen some ways to go about that, like, for example, TMGL format, Open Grand League having, a seeding which just sorts people out into groups where they're competing against, people who got similar seedings. They're not competing against people who, it's not a typical cup mode format where you get your matches made up of first, second, third, and fourth seed. You're just having matches made up of 4 seeds, matches made up of 3 seeds, and so on. We're matching shirts.
Five had not working here. Okay, wait,
no idea. Anyway, I think it's there is ways that it can be done. Like the division splits for Open Grand League. Yeah, there you go. The division splits for Open Grand League, having some ideas like that. Instead of using a seeding to decide a bracket, in a sense, having some sort of other funky formats out there. I don't know. I don't know the solution to the problem. A lot of the kind of people will need to go to the drawing board, that are more into the tournament development scene than I am. Maybe TMEC will be revived in some sort of blaze of glory. I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of my question I pose to you guys is how would you deal with that problem? And certainly let us know. But I don't really feel I've got that much else to bring to the table other than, I suppose, an announcement of sorts. How about you?
An announcement? Okay. Then go ahead.
Okay. So, just, of course, as we give to you guys at the start and end of every episode, that, of course, this podcast is ran and brought to you by ESAC, otherwise known as Electronic Sports Arena Challengers. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know. But, of course, is now opening up play.esac.gg, which is hopefully going to be bringing the future of ranked competitive Trackmania back into the frame of mind. So, of course, the website is now up for including map submissions as well, which will be using the likes of the competitive open map pool project, which was already announced a few weeks ago. But also, as I will link it here for you folks here as my face goes all dark, don't anyone get scared, the lights are still on, is looking to introduce things like an ELO rating. My face is still going to stay dark, just so I don't forget anything here. So we're going to introduce things like ELO rating and how it's going to sort through the different sort of kind of tournaments, players, and things like that. Advance through things like a bronze, silver, and gold rank classified by a rating system. Daily tournaments, of course, utilising the open map pool, and essentially an automated tournament platform. It's not going to be having, worrying about organisers making all of these sort of events and things like that. It's not going to be worrying about having the right people in the right place at the right time. It's just going to simply worry about the players being in the right place at the right time, and hopefully will introduce more opportunities for players to be playing in events from which I feel could possibly solve some of the issues we've been mentioning about. Having some sort of ELO rating, if that is incorporated in any sort of way into any sort of tournament format, or, the golden word that's been in a lot of people's minds recently, matchmaking, then who knows, we might be seeing more opportunities come out for some players who are on the lower end of the spectrum to start punching up instead of constantly having players who are above them punching down. So definitely keep your eyes on that. The website has been posted in the chat for any who are interested. For any who are listening to this as a radio show, it is play.esac.gg. I don't think we're on the radio, but just in case. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had to bring to the table for today. How about Mr. Turbo?
It was a very... I didn't know that the topic that we've had today will go into this direction, but I think it was a good podcast. The verity, and then also like the player field, and then concluding it with the sort of play.esac.gg platform, which could be the solution for that, as you've mentioned, with an ELO rating and stuff like that. Also looking forward to that. So it will come out on January of 2021, so very soon, in 1.5 months approximately. And also what's really cool is that there's like a open map pool, so that you can create tournaments and you can play your ELO ranking and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. We'll definitely give that a try. So guys, do that as well. January 2021, but we will definitely talk about that here in the podcast. And we will keep you updated. And I guess that's it for us today. And hopefully you guys will have a nice evening. Gonna send you to bed now or to study, what I will do after that. And thank you all for watching, and goodbye.